It seems like it's been a very, very fruitful party yesterday, since I see you coming back very slowly with your cups of coffee, and hopefully you're going to be all energized and ready for our next speaker. The first speaker of the day, an absolute professional and master of performance and mental wealth coaching and masterminding. Mike Pagan will start off this day with the mental wealth keynote, something that all of us really need at the end of a very eventful and busy conference. Mike, welcome on the stage.
Oh, we're awake. Welcome, everybody. Mental wealth, what is it? In simple terms, this is obviously a play on the language of mental health, but mental wealth is the focus on proactively, intentionally investing in your mental wealth. So that means looking after the support network, looking after you. Because one of the challenges we have is when we don't look after ourselves and things go a little bit awry, and we land up with some little friends that don't quite work. Get it right. A lot more to mental wealth than just that. You're going to get used to my animations. I've got a lot of little friends in there. The problem that we're dealing with here is isolation. Isolation kills creativity and prevents decision making. It's a problem that we all have. Whether you be in an independent solopreneur startup business, or whether you be a C-suite executive in a multinational corporate organization, when we are isolated, we stop making decisions. When we stop making decisions, we stop doing what we need to be doing to achieve the goals, to make the things happen that need to be going on. And then you get into this negative vortex of procrastination. I'm British, as you can tell by the accent. We have a phrase there called faffing about. It's F-A-F-F, faffing about. It's not German, it hasn't got a PH in it, it's F-A-F-F. And it stands for the false art of feeling fulfilled. I've written a book on it, I've written multiple other books as well. But the focus is very much on when we get the right people working with us, then we don't get caught in isolation. Because isolation feels a little bit like this. It's sad. He's grumpy, that one. But the reason why I show you these elements here is that when we're isolated, as happened through the lockdown, we land up looking a little bit differently. Yes, that was me in lockdown 1, and then that was me in lockdown 2. It kind of didn't work. We all went a little bit wild. And when we get the right people around us, we build the support. When we get the right people around us, we stop falling off the edge. Now, when I was writing my last book on mental wealth, I sadly lost a friend to suicide. Now, I don't tell you that story to claim any credibility. Unfortunately, too many of us in the room today have got stories where you're 1, 2, or 3 degrees separated from such a situation. That's because the support network wasn't fit for purpose. And when we get the support going wrong, then a little bit of help from my friends, and we can work. Because what I want you to be doing is when we get the right people working with us, we get the right environment working with us, we can have a bit more of this one. I know I said I was going to wake you up with some of these just to make it all go. The little dancing divas. This one is all about fun. Work is meant to be fun. Life is meant to be fun. When we get all of these elements going correctly, we will have so much more about it. So, the first bit of homework I'm going to get you focusing in on is who is in your mental wealth team? Who's got your back? Now, this is a little challenge for you, and this is something I want you to work on today and every day going forward. I want you to start writing down names of people who are in your support network. Just general names. This is a little table that will give you a few ideas and thoughts to go with. It's not a list of who has to be there, but it's there to design and help you think about who could or should be in my mental wealth team, in my support network. I then want you to subjectively, randomly give them a score. 1 being a low score, 10 being a high score. There is no science behind this. This is purely subjective consideration of who is in your support network. Don't think, oh, I can't give Claire a 6 because she'll be upset, because you're not going to share it with her. Yeah? You just score this arbitrarily according to you. And you build up those numbers. And this is the translation of what those numbers mean. 1, 2s, and 3s. These are people that you know. They're an acquaintance. There are people you've met over the last few days and today that are acquaintances. You disappear, they won't remember who you are. 4s and 5s, they're people that you know for a reason. It could be because of a sport, a school, or something like that. But if you don't turn up for 2 months because you broke your leg or something, they don't ring you. Yeah? They're an acquaintance. You've got your 6s and 7s. Now, some of your 6s and 7s can be really good friends. They could be people you go to birthday parties, weddings, christenings, whatever else it happens to be. However, you are not comfortable sharing with them your vulnerabilities, your inner fears, your concerns. Those are reserved for your 8, 9s, and 10s. And your 8, 9s, and 10s are the ones that make up your mental wealth team. Now, when I've shared this challenge with people before, I've had many turn around and they've said at the end, I have nobody that scored 8, 9, or 10. That's okay. Because what we're creating here is a baseline. We're creating a position to start with where we know what's going on. Because we've got that baseline, then we can build from there. We also, in that same process of creating this scorecard, we also get to the point where we understand who are the negative ones. There's a lovely phrase called the mood hoover. They don't help. They're negative people. They do this. Suck your positivity out of you. You were feeling brilliant. You just achieved something wonderful. And now you feel drained, withdrawn, shrunk. We need to work out how to manage these people. And part of that is about building what I refer to as this mental wealth team. And there's 4 key elements to that I will run through very swiftly. Because when we get this right, we are becoming so much more powerful. We've got good people around us more of the time, most of the time. There is no such thing as perfection. Perfection does not exist. So don't set that as your objective. The part here is to start with self-care. That is number 1. We get self-care working. That means positioning yourself as number 1. People talk about auditing, and that's being selfish. No, it's about stepping into your personal power. When you look after number 1, you are fit for purpose. If you've got children, if you've got family, if you've got friends, whatever else, if you are not fit for purpose, then you let them down. I jokingly have always referred to myself as being number 6 in my family. Wife, 3 children, and a dog. All ahead of me, every time. We had puppies last year. I was number 14. But the part about that is, unless I'm number 1, how am I meant to be able to look after the rest? How am I meant to be able to put food on the table? How am I meant to solve challenges of daughters at school and falling out with friends every hour or whatever it is? Yeah, this is part of our process. So when we build that self-care, we look after number 1. Now, I'm one of those people, I refer to being a weekend warrior. So that means I'm not an extreme adventurer. I don't go hiking across the Antarctic. But this is a photograph of me a few years ago. I did a relay swim from England to France, so we swam the Channel. It's a bit stupid, I know. It's a bit cold. You're only allowed to wear budgie smugglers and a hat, and there's a torch on your head because it was at night time, and there was a storm going off over northern France, and we thought we were going to get hit by lightning, and all those wonderful jellyfish. Yeah, it was kind of scary. It was kind of weird, but what did it teach me? Well, it taught me a really key thing, and this is about having those support people around you. I didn't know how to swim well enough, so I learnt. I didn't know how to deal with cold temperatures, so I learnt. I didn't want to drown in the middle of the Channel and leave my children without a dad, so I learnt how to swim and do it properly. I was committed. This is what we need to do. The other thing I really learnt, though, was I can't meditate or do mindfulness. I know there's many people in the room who will actually love that stuff. I can't, because I can't sit still, or if I do, I fall asleep. But what I worked out is, for years, I've been doing active mindfulness. And what I mean by active mindfulness, think of swimming, stroke after stroke after stroke. Think of when you're walking out climbing, go and climb Mont Blanc or some random hill around the corner from you. Step, after step. When you get into that flow, you switch off. I have never gotten out of the water feeling worse than I did before I got in. And that's whether it be 8 degrees or at 28 degrees. It's one of those things that I do. It really works. And that's part of my self-care. It means that I do things more proactively. Getting up on a Sunday morning when I don't need to, because I want to. Going and finding my sanctuary. Where is your sanctuary? Where do you go to switch off? Where do you go to reboot? This is all things that we can all do, but it works. And just to add in one extra thing on the cold water thing, I know some of you have heard of this thing called cold water therapy and ice baths. This I took recently of my wife. We got an ice bath for my birthday about 3 weeks ago. It cracks me up every time I see it. This is what happens. But as a result, getting out of that water, wow. You feel good, you feel fresh, you feel alert, your body is tingling all over. It went viral, that one, and she wasn't very happy about me doing it at the time, but she knows she's made a lot of people laugh. I don't think she knows it in this slide deck yet, though, but that's another problem I'll get over later. So that's your self-care. We need to proactively, intentionally look after ourselves. Then a coach. I would say that I've run a coaching business for 20 plus years now, so I'm a fan of coaching. The specifics around that, though, is having the right people asking the right questions and holding you accountable to your self-sabotage practices that we all have. If you have a coach, they call you out. They know what you're doing that doesn't help. I did this research a while ago about how much alcohol I drank. Now, I'm not a teetotal, as you can tell my body. I'm not sort of a purist or whatever else. The reality check was, on a very simple calculation, I was donating approximately 100 days a year to the god of alcohol. How do you do that, Mike, you say? 100 days a year worked out at 15 hours a week. 15 hours a week meant several hours at the weekend and a couple during the week. Builds up very quickly to 15 hours a week. Now, I'm not saying don't be sociable and have a drink and so on, but when you realize that we don't have enough time to do what we need to do, and you can suddenly get to 100 days a year, what about the number of times you watch box sets? Yeah? If it's not alcohol, how many hours a week do you spend watching box sets, Netflix, Amazon Prime, whatever it is? How many hours a week do you spend scrolling on social media? Yeah? We all do it. Cumulatively, 100 days a year is 15 hours a week. That's quite scary. That's 2 hours a day. We need to know where we self-sabotage. Coaches will help you find that. Your professional team will stop you making ridiculous decisions. I say ridiculous decisions because I bought a beautiful property in Cyprus a number of years ago on the home of the PGA golf course. If I'd seen an independent solicitor who'd said, look at this contract, don't sign it, run, Forrest, run, would have been the response. It cost me £250,000 over 15 years to get out of that contract. It was watertight. I was screwed. If you've got that professional network, you don't need them on call the whole time, but we need to do this with them. We need to trust them. I said you to get used to and enjoy my animations as they go along, because that's what happened. I had the bad guys chasing. They were after my house if I didn't pay it, which was not fun. Final area is masterminding. This is the fourth element. Masterminding was established in the UK in the 1760s by the Lunar Society. It wasn't by Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich, for those of you who've read that book. The Americans like to claim it, but it wasn't. It was the Brits. And basically, you had Erasmus Darwin and Matthew Bolton and luminaries of the day who were pushing the boundaries of religion. They were pushing the boundaries of the Industrial Revolution. So they met in secret under the light of the full moon, hence the Lunar Society. But what really happened for those guys was, because of their meeting in private, they asked each other great questions. So you get this element where you've got 7 minds asking you questions. How many of you are in a mastermind group where you've got this going on? I love seeing hands going up with his masterminds. Yeah, because this is what happens in a mastermind group. People ask you better questions than you ask yourselves. They hold you accountable for the things they say you're going to do. In the mastermind groups that I run, I get people to sign a confidentiality agreement, the Chatham House rule. Now, I know legally that's not enforceable, but it sets the tone of that group. So we've got virtual groups that I run around from people all over the planet coming in and joining in on those because they ask really brutal questions of each other. And between each meeting, they buddy up and they have follow-up conversations. It means that you can very, very quickly go from 1 or 2 people in that mental wealth team we talked about earlier to 8 to 15. And suddenly our game changes. Now, the power of the network is what is so important here. Your network is where you have the step up. Now, for me, my network changed dramatically. A quick story on my network. My father used to live in Singapore in the 1950s. As a young man, before he was married, and he was involved in the cricket club there and had a lot of fun and so on. His best mate moved to Bangkok and set up a logistics company. He moved back to the UK, met my mother, and so on. 40 years later, I was then moving to Australia. And my father was in touch with his friend in Bangkok, who said, you should tell Mike to hook up with my mate Newton. We did some land deals back in the 70s. He's a top guy. If he can help Mike, he will. So I turned up in Australia, never met this person, go knocking on his door. Little old guy comes to the door. Come on in, mate. Feeling a bit crook today. Just had my first dose of chemo. But let's see what I can do. I'm thinking of investing in a .com business, but they've got no commercial skills. Do you fancy doing a bit of that? So I did that. Good old-fashioned golden handcuffs, small pocket money income, and joined this .com business. 3 years after I returned to the UK, that business was bought out. I made some money. Didn't give me financial independence for life or anything, but it was a good investment. 3 months after I met Newton, he died. So I had that very, very small window to meet this one person on the other side of the planet and within my network, tenuously land it and work it. We all have networks, and we need to make those work for us. Because when they do work for us, we can achieve so much more. So let me wrap up. I've got a couple of things for you to do as a result of listening to what I'm describing here. I want you to review your support network. Understand who they are, work out who are the good guys, work at the areas where you need to recruit more. That's what I want you focusing in on. I want you to be focused on fun. Yes, working hard is challenging at times. If you're in a young startup business, you're already doing 18 hours a day, you'll be burned out by Christmas if that's what you're doing now. We need to be balancing on where we work. Go and have that fun and make it work. And the final part for you is a call out for good citizens. Now, this story really does hone back to the core of mental wealth, which is about changing lives and potentially saving a life. 18 months ago, I had a phone call from one of my best friends who lives in the States. And he rang me out of the blue. And this is my challenge to you. I want you to pick up the phone and talk to somebody that you haven't spoken to because your gut feel is saying, I really need to reach out. Don't high-five them, don't tweet them, don't text them, don't Insta them. Pick up the phone. If you live close, go and see them. Because when my friend rang me from the States, it was 5 a.m. in the morning, US time, when he was on the phone. Why are you ringing me now? I don't know. I just felt I needed to ring you. The night before this phone call came through, one of my son's best friends was fortunately unsuccessful in a suicide attempt. He was in hospital in intensive care in a very dangerous predicament. My friend from the States runs the A&E hospital in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. I was able to talk through all the symptoms and all the challenges of what this young man had done. I could then repeat that to his twin sister and his parents so that they were able to find calm in what was going on. It was absolutely spooky, if you want to call it that, as to why he rang me at that time. But he had no idea what was going on in my world. My challenge to you is, you have no idea what is going on in the world of other people around you. If we're spreading positive mental wealth, we're spreading positive ways of working, then we can celebrate more. We can have a lot more fun. This was a fireworks display after I did Scotland's most challenging one-day quadrathlon. For those of you who want to know more, it involves kayaking as well as all the other triathlon nonsense. It hurt so much, I will never do it again. It's put me off running for life. But it was fun and games. If you've enjoyed what I've been talking about, please look me up. Please link in to me. I've got books. I've got other reasons to chat to you and everybody else. The key part of this presentation is for you. Focus on building your positive mental wealth, because that way we can change lives and potentially save one. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello. Oh no. Oh, finally. Great. Thank you very much. Perfect. It's always a great pleasure to be able to hear from you, Mike. It's been a lot of... I think you've been to a lot of our conferences. You're really a regular, so I always love to hear from you, and your stories always really resonate with me. The moment that you said that you always have to pick up the phone or ring someone up, thank you for saying that. I didn't pick up a phone once, and I didn't prevent my friend's suicide. This is what happens in real life. So the way you're enforcing it and telling it to people and sharing it, I think it's extremely important. And thank you so much for always speaking up. And that's absolutely an immense pleasure to have you here all the time. Thank you. Hopefully we will see each other in the next edition as well. And, well, feel free to talk to Mike during the event today, because that's really just an amazing person, and every single time I get to interact with him, it's it just changes the way my whole day goes, so it's always worth a try.